Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel and to the table, as I often say. Glad to be here with you. I'm taping on this on early Friday morning. A couple of things that Spirit gave me in meditation this morning to take a look at for you all is number one, this situation with no body cameras in relation to the death of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo in Houston, right? And so, unlike the deaths of, say Renee Good or Alex Preddy, where there was so much on video that could back up what was actually done, in this situation, we're understanding that even the witnesses that were in that van with Araujo, with Mr. Araujo, may he rest in peace, just unbelievable. But they have been detained by ICE. Okay, so they're essentially being told, you self deportation or threats against them for providing their witness testimony, because of course they're saying, as usual, the DHS is saying, well, they tried to use the car to ram ICE agents, and the witnesses are saying absolutely not. But again, part of the issue here in this particular case is that there's no film, there's no video evidence either through body cameras. Now, here's where that's interesting. According to the Brennan Center for Justice, as of March 2026, this agency, DHS and ICE, which got almost 70 billion, between 65 and 70 billion dollars allocated for their spending. That's how they went out there and offered all these $50,000 bonuses to people to join, become ICE agents. That out of all these billions of dollars, less than 25% of ICE agents have been given body cameras. This is according to reporting from the Brennan Center for Justice, which is pretty reputable. So that's as of March. We also know that in the wake of what happened in Chicago, there was a judge out of Chicago who passed a law and issued an order saying agents in Chicago must, by law, wear body cams. First, Spirit, is this something that Stephen Miller has hatched with, of course, assistance from Mark Wayne Mullen, to pursue their agenda by not having body cameras? Is this a concerted effort to delay and prevent body camera footage by getting Stephen Miller behind it, especially? Nine of Swords at the bottom of the deck. I never ignore that, because they're worried about the prosecution of agents. I mean, that's a big thing that has come up, even though what have we heard behind the Renee Good or Alex Preddy cases, right? Where are the arrests? The Nine of Pentacles, they're claiming the money for it. The Queen of Pentacles, this feels like it goes back to Kristi Noem's days. The Queen of Wands and the Three of Swords. The Knight of Swords. The Wheel of Fortune. I don't know who within the justice system, and this could even be, I'm wondering if, where's that Queen of Wands that came? That Queen of Pentacles feels like Kristi Noem, who, despite all of this funding that was allocated to the DHS and ICE, clearly the body cameras, they don't want that, right? Queen of Swords does feel like a justice that's going to come out in the open to start to really put this forward and making it a laws in various states that these agents must wear body cameras. Spirit, is that what you're showing me? This is coming from the judicial system within states. The Queen of Cups, another feminine energy. Are these predominantly female judges that are going to start to come out? either federally or otherwise, and demand body cameras being worn in the various states. Ace of Swords. Thank you, Spirit. I love it. So when I get aces, again, many of you know that's my yes. Spirit tells me I'm on the right track with that. So just as we saw in Chicago, that's going to be, and it looks like predominantly we're going to see some female judges. Very often, though, I also want to mention when I get feminine energy, it could even be a male who identifies more as feminine. So yes, we're going to see more decisions come down in the wake of what has happened in Texas now. Um, we're going to see more decisions come down from judges demanding on the state level that these ICE agents must wear, and DHS agents in general must wear body cameras. Now, that Wheel of Fortune that came, I don't want to ignore that. It does feel like a timing element. And I'm also wondering if this is something that goes into effect. Is this something, Spirit, that goes into effect next year? Two of Swords, decisions around it, and the Six of Wands. Yes, potentially 6 months. I'm getting within the first 6 months of the year after the House changes, and again, crossing our fingers and saying our prayers and lighting our candles around the Senate. But yes, there is something where they are going to have laws passed. Now, there have already been proposed laws in Congress to address this, but of course, they've just swept that under the rug as they continue to bow and scrape to Trump. Spirit, going back to Stephen Miller, is this part of Stephen Miller's masterminding behind this? And Mark Wayne Mullen is just whatever Stephen says. Ten of Swords, Nine of Wands, and Strength. Because, as many of you know, Stephen Miller started coming under a lot of pressure in recent months because it was like, dude, you've gone too far. It was even said that Susie Wiles and some of those within Trump's orbit, his inner circle, were like, Stephen, you're going to have to figure some other things out, dude. You're calling too much heat on yourself. And that, excuse me, a card just fell. Oh, my Ace of Swords. And that's why he went back. This is Stephen Miller regaining his strength, but coming at it a different way. Because he's not giving up. He sees his prospects still as after Trump, whether it's hanging out with J.D. Vance or whoever gets in office or whoever runs, because they're not going to get in, whoever runs behind Trump. And he was worried. He was extremely worried. And the Queen of Swords. I usually get Susie Wiles as more of a Queen of Cups energy, but this is someone who talked to him. Oh, this could even be Katie Porter, his wife. Is that who you're showing me? She was really getting worried about him, the Chariot, family oriented, ruled by Cancer. So Katie Porter, his wife, Stephen Miller's wife, got in his ear and said, I've got some serious concerns about you in terms of prosecutions, in terms of where you are going and your political future. Because, of course, she sees him as still, rising in the ranks of Republican power. So she got into his ear, worried about him, that Nine of Wands and that Ten of Swords. He's coming out then saying, okay, I got this. We're going to have to go at this a different way. So this is Stephen Miller pulling the strings behind Mark Wayne Mullen. But again, what we saw with all that feminine energy, be on the lookout for more while Congress continues to drag its feet over laws. And that part that we saw early on in the reading, though, it's going to come back on the table when the Dems take over. Okay, that's going to be one of the first priorities, is to rein in DHS and ICE. All right, and it could very well be, I still, Spirit has said, and many readers here on the platform have said, Stephen Miller's not going to meet a nice end. He's going to answer for what he's done. He's going to sweat it. So Katie Miller getting in his ear saying, there's some problems here. She's absolutely right about that. And those problems are not going to go away. But again, the idea that the tactic that they're taking now is to go into areas, because this was also an area, as we understand, where Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was picking up other workers to do their work. This was an area that was not, it wasn't the same kind of setup as, where you had a general population that would be out perhaps with phones and cameras and they were very, very shrewd and tactical about where they went and how they went about this. And so to bring them to justice, to bring these agents to justice, again, you need evidence. And that's what Miller's on. But I think judges are going to be the ones that come out and enforce some laws around that. Okay. Second thing I want to look at today. So interestingly, the timing of this. So Trump does away with, in the wake of the SCOTUS decision recently around his authority to fire heads or people in independent agencies, right? Remember that? So now he's completely dismantled the Election Assistance Commission, all right? For those of you who don't know, the Assistance Commission has been around since 2003, and they do things like they help states with voting machine upgrades, voter registration, recounts if there need to be recounts, mail-in voter forms, and helping those get done and approved and disseminated. So everybody's gone. He literally Trump got rid of the entire commission. There's nobody there. And this is a bipartisan independent commission, again, in the wake of the SCOTUS decision, giving him this authority to just wipe these kinds of agencies out. At the same time that happens, lo and behold, we get the Assistant Attorney General of Civil Rights, no less at the DOJ, Harmeet Dillon, comes out and announces the hiring of 100 new DOJ civil rights attorneys. This is after the dismantling of the Civil Rights Division at the DOJ, as many of us know, as this administration took hold. So they got rid of the DO. Some of them resigned, many of them were fired. But now this Harmeet Dillon jumps up, and she's all over social media, heralding the hiring of 100 new attorneys from around the country as this Election Assistance Commission is being dismantled, right? Spirit, is this a plan to the Civil Rights Division? Is the DOJ going to launch a series of lawsuits in the wake of the midterms to challenge the outcomes of the elections? That's it. I think. Let's go to Spirit. Whoop. That state, death. This is also timing, ruled by Scorpio. Although the elections take place before Scorpio goes into effect, but this feels like the month of November in general. November is going to be rough, you all. And I mean, that. We all know that at this point. November is going to be rough, but it is to disrupt and essentially end elections the way that they're supposed to take place. Spirit's reminding me. So Gavin Newsom has proposed new legislation to try and get out ahead of this, and said any seizure of ballots can be deemed a felony if the government tries to go into, for instance, the state of California in the wake of the midterms and seize ballots before even they can be counted. So, as soon as the elections are held, you get folks, from the government showing up and trying to seize these ballots. Gavin Newsom has said, you try that here, you will be, he can't pardon you from a state situation, right? So he's come out. Spirit, will we see laws enacted, predominantly I'm thinking in blue states, to stop ballot seizures? Temperance, we are going to see that. We are absolutely going to see that. That's a change And also, that's a timing element. Temperance rules Sagittarius. That's moving. So between November and December is when all of this is going to hit the fan, because they're going to try and claim that these elections were fraudulent in various areas, especially blue states where the Republicans get whomped. They're going to come out and say fraud, fraud, fraud. These new DOJ lawyers, civil rights, that people's civil rights have been violated. That's the angle that they're going to take. And so they're going to launch this. The King of Wands, I feel like that is Newsom. Will he be joined by other governors? Knight of Cups. Yeah, he's ignited a conversation around that, and amplification, Page of Swords. People starting to get on board with that. It's new, it's growing. Spirit, will we see states pass legislation to protect ballots after in the midterms? Will we see legislation in states? The Empress. Oh, whew, am I glad to see that? Yeah, the Empress. This is a growth. This is like the spread of, Gavin comes out and says, as he did very much with Spirits reminding me with redistricting, right? When it happened in Texas, Gavin Newsom was one of the first to come out and say, okay, guess what we're about to do, and did it in California, and did it the right way through the voters. So I'm glad to see that, you all. I think what Spirit is saying, and the High Priestess, but right now we haven't heard a lot about it, because they're still they're being very strategic. Governors and secretaries of state, and of course attorneys generals in especially blue states, because that's where they're going to really go at it. They are being very strategic about when they make their plans openly known. But the Four of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles and the Four of Pentacles. There's some costs involved in this, and the Nine of Swords. So some of the states are going to be concerned with, of course, to battle this and to boost up and make sure that there are measures in place to protect ballot seizures. So what does that mean? Does that mean you've got to... Spirit, they tell me slow down. Spirit, will there be state or county level law enforcement to protect, if necessary, to protect the ballots? The Fool. It's going to be an interesting time, because what I'm getting, so make sure I'm clear. You're going to have the Department of Justice ready to file these lawsuits and say, it was election fraud. None of this is real. People's civil rights are being violated. So they're going to try and go after these ballots. There's going to be measures put in place to keep ballot seizure from going forward. And the Fool is saying, in reference to the question of, will we have to have local or other law enforcement available at voting sites, and to protect election officials who are being told, by the way, now we know, they're being basically threatened by the DOJ. You can be criminally prosecuted if we find that you've done something wrong. And there's the Two of Pentacles. That is cooperation among law enforcement. I'm getting with state governors and secretaries of state to protect these election sites. Five of Pentacles, make sure they don't get their hands on those ballots. And the Emperor, because that's his goal. That's wanting to go after those ballots. And that's governors and secretaries of state and attorneys generals in these states saying, we are not going to let you have them, period. And if that involve law enforcement. Six of Swords, Hangman, and the Two of Swords. There's a decision that they're going to make about that. Also goes to that money thing that we saw a moment ago. The Nine of Pentacles, because that's funding as well. So that's states having to account for and plan around funding to prevent this from happening. And that's part of why we saw that sort of slow roll in that high priestess, because they have all of these things require money, right? But I do think, Spirit, I just want to go a little bit deeper. Bottom line, will there be measures in place to counter clearly what they're planning to do to seize ballots? The world. Thank you. Yeah, I think so. I think there's going to be, this feels like a completion, meaning a holding of the election process. We've heard many many pundits, political pundits and legal experts saying at the end of the day, voting is run by states, not the federal government. The federal government's attempt to come in and seize ballots, overtake the elections, cause doubt, and have these new DOJ lawyers file lawsuits to try and delay the results and delay certifications, that's going to run into a whole heck of a lot of problems, you all. And finally, what I'm getting, I got a hint of this before when we saw Jack Smith sit down recently with Nicole Wallace on MS Now. Jack Smith talking about this new crop of DOJ civil rights lawyers from where? I saw a picture of them online. Maybe many of you did as well. All white men looking like, some of them looking a little ragtag, right? And it's not like the DOJ has been attracting the cream of the crop in the legal community, but Jack Smith does. And when he was talking to Nicole Wallace, one of the things that Jack Smith brought up was that he feels a certain responsibility toward what has happened to a lot of the cream of the crop that were in the DOJ, who are still out there. They haven't left the United States, whether they've gone back into private practice. So if the plan is to get this new ragtag group of these new patriots in the DOJ Civil Rights Division, is Jack Smith and others, the real professionals, the real people who know how to do this, are they going to be the ones to come up after the election and fight these cases that will be brought by the DOJ, this new DOJ? Are we going to see Jack Smith and others within the old guard in the Department of Justice? Are they going to be the ones to fight these cases, Spirit? Justice. Thank you. I knew it. I felt it. Jack Smith is very, he's very careful about when and how he speaks in public, but there was something about him saying, I feel a responsibility to what happened with a lot of my team. And he has gone into private practice since he stopped, he came away from being special counsel. He does have private practice. There is this network of DOJ lawyers around the country. There you have it, justice. They're going to be very involved. And so talk about outwitted, outdone, outmatched. This new crop of DOJ lawyers, good luck. Good luck. All right. Last thing I want to look at today, y'all. That's good news. I hope that pinged you the right way as well. Last thing I wanted to look at, of course, is this Cyclospora. I hope I'm saying that right. The parasite thing that's caught wildfire. You all, I don't know how closely you've been following this. I know it's, we're finally hearing a lot about it after the media was not saying anything about it for a while. But I read maybe just earlier this week or over the weekend that it had been cases spreading in 18 states. This morning I go online to do a little follow-up research. It says it's up to 29 states now, just that fast and spreading. Now, why? Because Elon Musk, co-signed by RFK Jr., basically have dismantled, said the CDC, who cares, right? What good are they? So we're seeing essentially social media becoming the doctor for Americans, because most of the information that we're getting around still don't really know where it's coming from. We know that it's about these raw vegetables that even if you triple wash them, they're still a problem or potentially a problem. So, the common denominator right now is like, listen, cook everything. Like just really tighten up on what you consume in vegetables that's raw. Vegetables and fruits that's raw. Here's what I want to look at. There's already some noise being made about, hey, this could have been avoided because there have been some deaths. It's not necessarily like a pandemic type of situation with the risk of deaths, but there have been deaths as a result of this, which is apparently horrific. And they're saying it can last up to the diarrhea symptoms, violent diarrhea, up to 6 weeks or more. Spirit, are we going to see, in particular, I feel like Elon Musk is somewhere over there, but RFK Jr., because he's still in the job. He's still head of the health and human services. I don't even know anymore. Spirit, is RFK Jr. gonna take some heat and come under fire for this? Could this lead to his ouster? Queen of Wands, the Chariot, and the Queen of Swords, and the Empress. Woo! This is the welfare of the people, and this being a health issue, and it's growing. The Chariot, protecting people, protecting families, and having to do something about this moving forward. The Queen of Wands and Queen of Swords, are these people in Congress that are going to go after RFK Jr.? Two of Swords, Ace of Pentacles. There's two people in particular in Congress who are going to go after RFK Jr. to make him answerable. Is this them bringing him before Congress to have to testify or and be held accountable, Spirit? Are these two women in Congress who are going to haul RFK Jr.'s butt before Congress to have to deal with this and answer for it? Eight of Pentacles. And the Queen of Pentacles, another queen comes. And death. Is Spirit, are you speaking of death in terms of this leading to either RFK Jr.'s resignation or being let go? Ace of Swords. He's not going to recover well from this. For all of the outlandish crap that has come out of, for entertainment purposes only, for all the outlandish crap that everybody's heard from and witnessed with RFK Jr. Now you're dealing with a literal situation that is sweeping across the country that they have no answers for, and they are directly responsible for because they dismantled the agency that could have whose function would be to prevent something like this, and certainly be able to trace it, because right now that's part of how it's spreading. There's been nothing really reliable to the source of it. We've heard some brand names out there, Taylor Farms, those salad kits and things like that to avoid. There's been some fast food places. I've understood Taco Bell has come out and said, okay, we gotta revamp, what we're putting on our food. Chipotle, I think the same thing. So there's been that aspect of it. But again, it's been piecemeal. It hasn't come from professionals in the government whose job would be to nail it down, track it down, and prevent it or stop it. Page of Swords and the Moon and the Tower. This is definitely going to cause some sort of break in the health department or specifically RFK Jr.'s leadership, you all. It's going to take a minute. Page of Swords. For whatever reason, he's had some people covering him. Trump especially, tolerating his stuff. But the Three of Wands is a growing sentiment that this guy's got to go. Especially to have something like this happen, in a pivotal election year in the few months before elections. The Five of Swords, they're going to try and keep, the subterfuge around how this really happened. But that Tower, I can't ignore it, you all. RFK Jr. is going to have to go. Now, the future of and the Six of Wands, he's got to go. Six of Wands, victory, and the fire that begins to spread, the momentum that begins to spread around how inept he is. Now, prosecution, they're telling me to pick up. Prosecution of him and or potentially Musk. Musk is not out of the woods, you all. This is going to be down the road, but all the things that Musk did, we know he's already undergoing some stuff internationally, right? He's under fire internationally for all sorts of fraud and election interference. He's not out of the woods here in the United States. It's just that there's so many other fires burning right now. That's going to take some time to go after him and make him accountable. We do hear he's losing money by the billions, though. SpaceX stock, woo! So he's losing a lot of money, and that is one way karmically in terms of divine retribution. All of that hoopla a month or so ago about him being the first world trillionaire. I don't even know if that still holds. We suddenly stopped hearing a lot of news around that. He's lost a lot of money. So I don't know if he's still designated as that or not. Spirit, will we see, especially as a result of this parasite situation, will Musk and RFK Jr. be held accountable? The Four of Wands, the Five of Wands, the Five of Pentacles, the Knight of Pentacles, and the Nine of Pentacles. It's slow, but it gains traction. There's going to be an argument. They're going to continue the arguments about, well, yeah, he let people go, but that didn't necessarily start this Cyclospora, situation. He's not responsible for that. You can't hold him responsible for that. He didn't start that. He just destroyed the agency that could have prevented it. So that's the argument. That's that Five of Wands. The Four of Wands and the King of Pentacles, though, now that's him. Does he go down? King of Pentacles, I get that often from Musk. Is that him going down? Judgment. Yeah. And again, I know, I feel exactly the way you do. None of this is right now. We'd love to see it right now. But on some levels, karmically, you all, it is right now. What does this man's whole identity rely upon? He was on that high horse about being designated the first trillionaire. Well, that ain't, as far as I know, that's kind of going downhill, right? So that's what we're seeing. That judgment coming for him. And whether it is through legal means or through the failure of his companies, one way or another, judgment does not play. And you saw me. The Tower. Okay? Judgment and the Tower. Elon Musk. Right? So there's a lot, and again though, I'm feeling rather than him being imprisoned and prosecuted that way, I think it's going to come at him in the way that hurts him most, and that is his money. All right, you all. That's what I got for today. Chins up, right? We have to. Some days I'm sitting there I've said it before. Some days I'm like, oh, just lean and push, just lean, shoulders back and keep breathing, right? Sky above us and the earth beneath us. Okay, we're heading into the real heat of the fire towards these midterms. The closer we get, but yeah, if there needs to be the fight that's waged, the fight is going to get waged, and they just do not understand. I think right now it's desperation mode, And and so therefore we're going to see wilder and wilder stuff and antics happening. But again, going back to Gavin Newsom's initiative with that, hey, you come up in here and see some ballots, we're going to seize you, right? And I think that is going to spread. It needs to hold. This body camera situation, yeah, that's going to get dealt with by some judges as well, just as that judge in Chicago said, we're not doing that. We need, and I just also heard, everywhere we go these days, there are cameras. We live in an age where there's cameras on street corners and traffic and signals and whatever. So perhaps even, but that's why we started seeing all that stuff around money. All of that requires funding to, put up additional cameras, especially in areas where it's, say, in a place like Houston or other areas where migrant workers gather, etc. But there has to be forms of protection for them. And I think we're going to see more both legislation, not necessarily on the federal end, not right now, but certainly within states to do it. All right. So that's something to hold on to and keep our chins up for. All right. I'll talk to you a little later. Be safe out there. Bye.